Amara moved to the new apartment on a warm Sunday afternoon, carrying a small box that said books and camera in black marker. The building smelled like fresh paint and soap. Her mom smiled at her across the hallway and said, "We're going to be okay, sweetheart." Amara believed her. She liked the way her mom's voice made heavy things feel light. She placed the box on the kitchen counter, opened it carefully, and took out her old, second-hand camera. The camera was not fancy, but it felt like a friend. It had seen city parks, birthday cakes, sunsets on the old street, and now it was here, ready to catch new light in a new place. That evening, Amara ironed her shirt for the first day at Riverview High. She smoothed the collar and checked a loose thread, then clipped it with tiny scissors. She did not try to dress cool. She dressed like herself. Clean shirt, comfortable jeans, and a blue ribbon for her hair that made her feel calm. In the mirror, she saw a thoughtful face. She was the new black girl at a school where she did not know anyone, and she could feel the questions that school might ask her without words. She took a breath and reminded herself of her mother's rule: we speak with proof, we act with grace, and we protect our peace. It was a rule that came from her grandmother. It was a rule that worked like steady footsteps on a long road. The first day began with a bus ride that twisted past the river. The school building rose ahead with big windows and banners about kindness and achievement. Students filled the sidewalks in groups, talking fast, laughing, calling names of friends. Amara walked alone, her camera tucked neatly in her bag, her head up, her steps sure. A security guard waved from the door. She smiled back and said, "Good morning." It felt good to say something simple in a place that was new. Inside, she found the office and checked in with a friendly woman who gave her a schedule. The woman showed her which hallway led to English class and printed a map with highlighted routes. The yellow line looked like a small road across a strange country. Amara said thank you, folded the paper, and followed the line with care. The hall smelled like pencil shavings and hand sanitizer. Lockers lined the walls like 100 small doors. She stopped at her locker, tried the combination twice, and laughed softly when it finally opened. Inside, she put a tiny magnet photo of her mom making a silly face with a whisk in her hand. That photo felt like a small light bulb in a closet. In English class, she sat in the second row by the window. She liked windows. Windows made rooms feel honest. Students took seats around her. Some glanced at her quickly and then looked away. Some looked at her shoes, her ribbon, her notebook. A tall girl with shiny hair whispered to a friend. The whisper was small, but it moved like a ripple. The girl's name would later come to Amara's ears, Tessa. She had a voice that could draw a crowd and eyes that liked to measure people. Amara did not meet her gaze. She wrote the date at the top of her paper, underlined it, and watched the teacher write a quote on the board. The quote was about stories and how they teach us to see better. Amara copied it slowly, word by word, the way she took pictures, with attention. After class, students bumped and hurried and made jokes. In the hallway, Amara turned left, then right, following her map to science. A boy with a soccer jersey said, "Hey, you need help?" His voice was kind. She said, "I'm okay, thank you." He nodded and kept walking. That small kindness put a little more air in her chest. In science, the teacher assigned lab groups by rows, and Amara raised her hand to ask for a manual because she had missed last week's introduction. The teacher handed her one with a smile and said, "Welcome. Glad you're here." Amara felt her shoulders drop a little. She liked teachers who cared about small details. Lunch came with noise. The cafeteria was a bright room with tables that were full of stories. Everyone seemed to know where to sit. Amara stood with a tray and watched for a place at the edges. She saw a table with 2 students sitting across from each other and a few empty seats. The girl wore a soft yellow headscarf and a denim jacket. The boy had a sketchbook, a pencil behind his ear, and a quiet smile. Amara took a step toward them, then another. Before she could ask, the girl looked up and said, "Want to join us?" Her voice had a warm shape. Amara said, "Yes, please," and the boy moved his backpack to make space. "I'm Noor," the girl said, tapping her chest gently. "This is Mateo." Mateo lifted his pencil in greeting. "I'm Amara," she said, sitting down carefully, grateful for the simple welcome. They began with easy questions: "Where did you move from, and what classes do you have?" Noor asked if Amara liked clubs and mentioned the photography club meeting next week. Amara's eyes lifted. "I love photography," she said, and when Noor asked what kind, Amara said, "Everyday light. Hands, faces, footsteps, small courage." Noor smiled and said, "Small courage is my favorite kind." Not far away, a group at another table laughed loudly. Tessa sat in the middle, with a bright sweatshirt and a phone face up beside her tray. The laughter came in steady waves. Amara did not need to know the words to know when laughter was not kind. She kept her head turned toward Noor and Mateo and asked about the art rooms, the library hours, the best way to get to the gym without getting lost. She tried not to hear how the loud group said "new girl" like it was a cooler on a hot day that they could lean against and kick. When lunch was almost over, a brief silence fell across many tables as an announcement played. It was about club fairs and volunteer sign-ups. Amara marked the times on her schedule with a star. As the bell rang, a joke floated from the loud table, not shouted, but placed in the air where Amara could not miss it. It was not a slur, not a curse, but it was sharp and personal. Noor's eyes flashed, and Mateo's handwriting paused. Amara lifted her head, met the space where the words hung, and did something very simple: she breathed in, breathed out, and chose to stay quiet. She did not bow her head, and she did not look down at her tray. She kept her face steady, as if her piece were a glass of water that she did not want to spill. Noor leaned close and said softly, "It's not you. They do this to anyone new, anyone different. Last year they did it to a transfer student who loved physics. The year before, a kid who played violin." Mateo nodded. "They get bored and pick targets. But people see more than you think." Amara listened, placed a napkin on her tray, and smiled a little. "Thank you," she said. "I'm okay." She meant it, even though her stomach felt like she had swallowed a stone. She had been here before, in smaller ways. She knew how to walk through. The afternoon passed with math and history. In history, the teacher asked students to talk about a moment when a single person's choice changed a community in a good way. Hands rose. People told stories about teachers, nurses, a coach, a neighbor who started a garden. Amara wrote down the ideas carefully. She believed in the power of one person's steady choice. She had seen it in her mom, who could call the utility company with a calm voice and leave the call with a solution, and also with the person on the other end feeling respected. It was a kind of quiet superpower. Amara hoped she carried a small version of it too. On the way to her locker at the end of the day, she noticed a small sticker stuck crooked on the door, a bright, silly cartoon. It wasn't rude. It wasn't nice either. It was the kind of sticker people used to mark territory, like a dog with a flag. She peeled it off gently, placed it in the trash, and placed her books in the locker with care. She took out her camera and slipped the strap over her wrist. The late light in the hallway was soft and golden, and it fell across the floor like a path. She lifted the camera and clicked once, capturing empty lockers, footprints of afternoon, and a janitor's cart at the far end with a row of clean towels. She liked saving small truths like that. Outside, the sky held a color that was not quite evening. Amara and her mom walked home together, sharing short notes about their days. Her mom asked about teachers, and Amara talked about the quote in English, the lab manual, the club fair. Her mom listened closely, the way she always did, and then, without pushing, asked, "How were the people?" Amara told her about Noor and Mateo and the kind office lady. Then she said there were some students who liked to test new people with little jokes that did not feel like jokes at all. Her mom's face softened with concern, but she did not throw new words into the air. She gave Amara space to keep talking if she wanted. After a moment, her mom reached for that old rule again, the one that had walked with them all these years. We speak with proof, we act with grace, and we protect our peace. They reached the apartment, and Amara slipped off her shoes. In the small kitchen, the evening light touched the edge of the sink. Amara took out her camera and placed it on the table. She opened a notebook and wrote a simple list: Day 1, English quote about stories. Science lab manual. Lunch met Noor and Mateo. Heard a not kind joke. Locker sticker, removed. After school photo of hallway light. She dated the page, underlined it, and felt something settle. She was not planning a fight. She was building a record. It helped her feel steady. After dinner, Amara sat by the window with her camera and looked through old photos. She stopped at a picture of her grandmother holding a small plant in a clay pot. The plant had one new leaf pushing out, bright and brave. Her grandmother had once said, "Growth is quiet work. People notice later." Amara smiled. She thought about the day and the whisper that had tried to stick to her. She would not let it stay. She would choose her own labels. She would look for light, for kindness, and for proof. If she needed to speak later, she would bring the truth with her, calmly. Before bed, she texted Noor and Mateo to say thank you for lunch and asked about the photography club. Noor sent the time and place: Thursday after school, room 214. Mateo added a photo of a doodle he had made in his sketchbook of a camera with wings and a little caption, "See the good." Amara saved the image and laughed softly. She felt less alone. In the quiet of her room, she laid out her clothes for the next day and placed her camera by her bag. She checked the battery, cleaned the lens with a soft cloth, and tucked the strap inside so it wouldn't snag. Then she stood at the window and looked out at the street. A bus sighed at a stoplight. A neighbor carried grocery bags up the steps. Across the way, someone watered a plant on a balcony, and the water fell like rain on a small forest of leaves. The world was still full of ordinary, gentle things. That helped. As she turned off the lamp, Amara said a small promise to herself: she would keep being herself. She would not make herself smaller to fit a narrow shape. She would do her work, show up with a clear voice, and keep her peace like a treasure. If unkindness came, she would hold on to her rule and her record. If kindness came, she would welcome it with open hands. She would learn the map of this new place, find her own roots, and let her camera catch the light that other eyes might miss. Tomorrow would be day 2. She was ready to see it. On the second morning, Amara woke before her alarm. The light in her room was pale and quiet. She sat up, tied her blue ribbon, and checked her camera. Battery full, memory card safe. She made toast for herself and her mom, and they ate side by side, speaking in short pieces about the day. Before she left, her mom placed a hand on her shoulder and said the rule again, the way some families say a prayer. We speak with proof, we act with grace, and we protect our peace. Amara nodded. The words were steady steps in her chest. At the bus stop, the air felt cool and helpful. A small group of students waited, heads bent over phones. One girl with a red backpack smiled at Amara and asked what classes she had. They talked for a minute about English projects. The bus came with a sigh and opened its doors like a mouth taking a breath. On the ride, Amara watched the river slide by. She took a quick photo of the morning through the window: soft clouds, water like a ribbon, a bird crossing the frame at the perfect second. It felt like a small win before school even began. She reached her locker and turned the dial. The door opened, and she stood still for a second. The inside looked different. Her small magnet photo of her mom was turned upside down, and someone had moved her notebooks to the top shelf and stuck a bright sticky note on the inside wall. On the note, someone had drawn a big smiley face with the words, "Welcome, stranger," and a wavy arrow pointing to a pocket where she kept spare pens. The pens were still there, but the note felt like a finger tapping her arm. "See? We can touch your things." Amara took a slow breath. She lifted the magnet photo and set it right. She folded the sticky note, put it in her backpack, and put her notebooks where they belonged. Her piece was a glass of water. She held it steady. In English, the teacher handed out a short writing task. "Choose a truth you learned the hard way," she said. Around Amara, pens moved and whispers rose and fell like small waves. Tessa sat 2 rows back today. Her voice floated in the air, soft but shaped like it wanted to be heard. When the papers were collected, Tessa leaned toward a friend and said, "Some people probably wrote about how to copy homework and not get caught." It was barely more than a breath, but it was shaped with aim. Amara felt the words brush her shoulder. She did not turn around. She watched the clock hand tick to the next line and reminded herself, "You don't have to answer things that aren't true." Between classes, Noor caught up with her. "You okay?" she asked, walking in step. "I'm okay," Amara said. "Someone played with my locker. Not a big thing. Just a message." Noor's eyebrows pulled together. "They do that sometimes," she said. "They want to see if you will react big, so they can laugh big." Amara nodded. "I'm not giving them that." Noor touched her arm lightly. "Good. Lunch with us again?" Amara smiled. "Yes, please." Science lab came before lunch. The teacher gave each group a set of materials and told them to measure temperature changes. Amara joined a table where 2 students were already setting up. "Hey," she said, friendly and even. They looked at her, smiled a little, and then began to work as if she were a chair in the room. She asked to read the instructions. The paper did a quick circle around the table without stopping in front of her. She noted the times when the thermometer readings were called out. She lifted her pencil to write, but the person next to her slid the lab sheet a little away from her side. "Not rude, not loud. Just a gentle not you." Amara felt heat rise in her face and put her hands in her lap. She looked at the clock, then at the teacher, who was helping another group. She listened carefully to the numbers as they were said and wrote them in her own notebook with the time stamp. She watched where the materials were kept and drew a small diagram of the setup, labeling each item. She wanted to know the process, even if she was not being allowed to touch it. When the lab ended, the students at her table wrote their names on the sheet. One of them said, "We should keep it as 3, since we started it." The other student nodded. The sheet left the table and moved toward the teacher. Amara sat very still for a moment. Then she walked up to and said quietly, "I participated in the lab. I took notes. May I please add my name?" The student holding the sheet smiled in a way that wasn't a smile and said, "Oh, sorry, we already turned it in." The paper was still in his hand. Amara looked at the teacher. The teacher was now speaking to a student with a broken beaker. The moment passed like a door closing. Amara breathed in, breathed out, and returned to her seat. She wrote the time and a short note in her notebook: "Science lab participated, not allowed to add name." At lunch, she told Noor and Matteo what had happened. Matteo's jaw set. "That's not okay," he said. "Say the word and I'll walk you to the teacher." Noor nodded. "Do you want me to go with you to the counseling office?" Amara took a bite of her sandwich and chewed slowly, thinking. "Thank you. I might do that, but not yet," she said. "I want to understand the full pattern." I want proof that is neat and calmly written. Noor squinted. Amara, you do not have to collect all the proof yourself before you ask for help. But I get what you're saying. You want the truth to be organized. Amara smiled a little at the word. Yes. Organized. Across the room, Tessa's table was busy again. A phone sat in the center like a tiny stage. People leaned in, laughed, covered their mouths, looked around in the way people do when they know a thing is not kind. Amara felt it the way a person feels a drop in air pressure. She turned her face toward Noor and Matteo and asked about the club fair schedule again, and what time the photography club met on Thursday, and where room 214 was. She kept her voice steady. She kept her glass of water full. That afternoon, in math, a message buzzed in Amara's phone during independent practice. She did not check it right away, she liked to finish what she started. When the bell rang, she looked. A classmate had sent a screenshot from a social account with a name Amara did not recognize. The screenshot showed a blurred photo taken from behind of a girl walking down the hall. The caption was a sentence that called the girl too serious, said she copied to keep up, and used a winking face. The girl in the photo wore a blue hair ribbon, and her backpack strap had a small pink thread that was easy to spot if you looked closely. Amara's stomach went cold and then hot. She did not reply to the message. She took a screenshot. She clicked to see the timestamp and took another screenshot. She clicked the profile and took one more screenshot of the username and the list of followers. She breathed slowly and wrote the time in her notebook. Post about me blurred hall photo caption unkind saved. On her way to history, Miss Patel's door was open. Miss Patel taught English, but Amara had noticed more than once that Miss Patel's room was an island. A few students sat inside eating crackers and talking softly. The walls had quotes about listening and asking better questions. Amara stopped at the door. Miss Patel looked up and smiled. Hi, Amara, she said, like they had known each other longer than one day. How's your second day going? Amara stepped inside. Mostly okay, she said. May I ask you something? Miss Patel waved her to a chair and offered a small pack of crackers. Of course. Amara spoke calmly. She told the simple facts, the locker note, the lab sheet, the lunch whispers, and the post she had just seen. She did not use big words. She did not add fire. She held her glass of water and spoke like a person telling the layout of a room. Miss Patel listened with her full face, not just her ears. When Amara finished, Miss Patel said, I'm sorry this is happening to you. You deserve to learn and feel safe. She pulled a small binder from her desk. These are the school steps for reporting. You can talk to a counselor or an administrator. You can bring a friend. You can share screenshots. She pointed to a page. Digital conduct is in here too. The school takes it seriously. And you don't have to do this alone. Amara looked down at the list of steps. The lines were clear. The words were steady. She felt a small loosening inside her shoulders. Thank you, she said. I'm going to gather what I have tonight, in order. Then I'll ask for a meeting. Miss Patel nodded. That sounds like a strong plan, she said. Also, if any teacher needs to correct a lab grade because your name was left off, we can help with that. You should get credit for the work you do. Amara felt seen in a way that made her eyes warm. Thank you, she repeated, and she meant it like a gift. After school, Noor and Matteo walked with her to the bus stop. Matteo said, my friend writes for the student newspaper. If you ever want to talk about a story on kindness and school culture, he's good at that. Amara smiled. Maybe later, she said. For now, I want to work inside the steps. Noor said, we've got you. If you want us in the meeting, we're there. If you want us to wait outside with snacks, we're there too. Amara laughed softly at that. Snacks are always good, she said. At home, Amara set her camera on the table and opened her laptop. She created a folder and named it Day 1 to Day 2 Notes and Proof. She opened a blank document and wrote the date and time at the top. Then she typed short, simple lines, each one with a time and a fact. Locker photo turned upside down sticky note said welcome, stranger. English comment about copying. Science lab sheet submitted without my name though I participated, took notes and drew diagram. Lunch whispers and phone group. Math saw post, took screenshots of post, time, and username. She added small details that were true and checkable, where she was, who else was present, what could be verified. She added the screenshots to the folder and labeled them with numbers that matched the lines in her document. Then she opened the school portal and found the digital conduct policy Miss Patel had mentioned. She read it carefully and copied the parts that matched what she was experiencing. She wrote, relevant sections, online harassment, misuse of images, academic exclusion. She did not add extra color. She let the facts be enough. Her mom came in and put a cup of tea beside her. How was day 2? She asked, pulling a chair close. Amara told her everything, simple and straight. Her mom listened and did not interrupt. When Amara finished, her mom said, I am proud of the way you are handling this. You are not shrinking. You are not shouting. You are choosing the clear road. Amara breathed out and looked at the folder on her screen. Tomorrow, she said, I'm going to ask for a meeting with the counselor and Miss Patel. I want a fair process. I want the behavior to stop not just for me, but for the next person too. Her mom squeezed her hand. That is grace, she said. And that is strength. Before bed, Amara checked her camera again and scrolled through the day's photos. Morning river. School hallway with light that fell like a path. A picture of Noor's hand beside a banana at lunch with a doodle on the peel. Tiny, ordinary proof that the day had more than one story inside it. She set an alarm and placed her notebook beside it. On the top page, she wrote the rule one more time, in neat letters, we speak with proof, we act with grace, and we protect our peace. Then she turned off the lamp. In the dark, the words glowed in her memory like small, gentle stars. Tomorrow would be day 3. She was ready to take the next step. Amara woke early on the third day with a clear plan forming in her mind like a simple map. She made tea for her mom and herself, then opened her folder of notes and checked the screenshots again. She did not stare at them long, she did not want the unkind words to take up space in her head. She just wanted to be sure the facts were correct, dates, times, usernames, places. When she zipped her bag, the camera strap rested against her palm. She felt calm, like she was carrying not only her camera but also her voice, organized and ready. At school, the art wing smelled like paper, glue, and a little bit of paint. Amara stopped outside the art room and watched students pin colorful work to a corkboard. The art teacher, Miss Rivera, wore bright earrings shaped like tiny suns and spoke to every student with her whole attention. When there was a quiet moment, Amara stepped in and said, "Good morning. I'm new, and I have an idea I want to share." Miss Rivera's smile was open. "I'm listening," she said. Amara explained her thought in slow sentences, a photo showcase where students could share images and short captions about times they felt unseen, judged, or misunderstood. People could submit anonymously if they wanted. The goal was not to blame anyone. The goal was to help people feel less alone and help the school see more clearly. As Amara talked, Miss Rivera's eyes softened. "Truth through the lens," Miss Rivera said, tasting the words. "I like that. We would need clear guidelines, no names, no calling people out, captions that focus on feelings and hope, not attacks." Amara nodded quickly. She had written a draft of those guidelines in her notebook. She showed them to Miss Rivera, who read quietly and then tapped the page with a pen. "This is thoughtful. I'll take it to the principal this morning. If we get a yes, we can announce submissions by afternoon." Amara felt the first small light of the day land in her chest. She thanked Miss Rivera, left the room, and walked down the hall with a step that felt a little taller. Her next stop was the counseling office. The door had a simple sign, "You can talk here." Inside, a woman with calm eyes and a cardigan that looked like a hug smiled and said, "Hi, I'm Mrs. Chen." Amara said her name and asked if Miss Patel could join them for a few minutes. Mrs. Chen made a quick call, and Miss Patel arrived with that warm, steady presence that made rooms feel safe. Amara placed her folder on the table. "I would like to share what has been happening," she said, and then she did. She kept her words simple. She used her document like a map, moving from point to point, locker, lab, lunch whispers, post, timestamps, screenshots. She handed over printed copies of the images with labels that matched her notes. Mrs. Chen listened without looking at her watch, asking small questions only to make sure the record was clear. What time did this appear? Who was nearby? What teacher was on duty? She nodded when Amara finished and said, "You did careful work. Thank you for trusting us." Miss Patel added, "You do not have to carry this alone. The school has a process, and fairness matters." Mrs. Chen explained the steps in plain language. An administrator would review the materials, compare timestamps with network logs, and speak privately with any students named or connected by the evidence. No one would be named publicly. The goal was to stop the behavior, support those harmed, and teach better choices. Amara felt her shoulders relax. "I want it to stop," she said. "I don't want drama. I want change." Before Amara left, Mrs. Chen asked if she wanted a friend present in any future meetings. "Yes," Amara said. "I would like Noor and Mateo to be nearby." Mrs. Chen smiled. "We can arrange that." Miss Patel asked if there were any classes where Amara felt she needed support right away. Amara mentioned the lab group issue. "I took notes, but my name was not added to the sheet," she said. Miss Patel made a note. "We can fix that," she said. "You should get credit for work you do." When the meeting ended, Amara thanked them both. As she reached for the door, Mrs. Chen said, "You are handling this with grace." Amara nodded once, then stepped into the hallway, holding her folder like a small shield made of paper and truth. By midday, the first announcement appeared in the school app and on the hallway screens: "Photo showcase, truth through the lens. Share an image and a short caption about a moment you felt unseen or judged and what helped you keep going. Anonymous submissions welcome." Guidelines posted outside room 214. Amara stood beneath one screen and watched students stop, read, and then look at each other with curious faces. Noor ran up and hugged the air near Amara's shoulders without actually squeezing her. "You did it?" Noor said. Mateo lifted his sketchbook and drew a quick camera with a speech bubble that said, "We see you." Amara laughed softly. "Miss Rivera did it," she said. "I just brought the idea." In the library, a small line formed at the submission desk by afternoon. A freshman with shaky hands placed a printed photo of a speech class and a caption that said, "My words get stuck sometimes. Please wait. I am still speaking." A student from the soccer team submitted a picture of a pair of cleats and a crumpled library late notice, with the caption, "I am not only one thing." A girl with a violin case sent a picture of her calluses, with the words, "Practice is my quiet shout." The librarian slipped each piece into a folder and whispered, "Thank you," like each entry was a seed. Not everyone was pleased. At lunch, Tessa's table looked amused and restless. "A feelings show," someone said. "Are we all supposed to cry in the hallway now?" Another voice joked about turning in a picture of a messy locker with the caption, "I felt unseen by the janitor." Laughter bubbled up. But on the edge of the table, Liam did not laugh long. He leaned toward Tessa and lowered his voice. "I heard the office is checking network logs," he said. "They can see when accounts post if they're on school Wi-Fi. I'm just saying." Tessa's face flickered and then returned to perfect confidence. "Why would that matter to me?" she said, but her hand turned her phone face down on the table. Liam stared at his tray. He looked like someone who had walked onto a stage and realized the play was not funny after all. In English, Miss Patel gave a short reminder about digital conduct and respect. "Words on a screen are still words," she said. "If something makes you laugh, ask yourself if it would still be funny if the person named was sitting next to you. If the answer is no, don't share it." She did not look at any particular student when she said it. She looked at the room as a whole. Amara felt grateful for that. It was not about making a single person feel small. It was about making the room feel kinder. After school, Miss Rivera asked Amara to help tape the submission guidelines outside room 214. Together they wrote them again in big letters: "Keep photos gentle, no names, no pointing fingers, captions about feelings and hope, not insults." "This is a showcase about seeing," Miss Rivera said, smoothing the last piece of tape. "Sometimes art is a mirror. Sometimes it is a window." Amara thought about that. "I think it can be a light too," she said. "Like a small lamp that helps you find the door in a dark room." Miss Rivera smiled. "Yes," she said. "Like that." In the evening, Amara organized a new section in her folder labeled Steps Taken. She wrote the date and time of her meeting with Mrs. Chen and Miss Patel, the main points, and the plan. She added the announcement for the photo showcase and the posted guidelines. She wrote a short note to herself: "The goal is change, not noise. Keep the room calm." Her mom made dinner while humming a tune that sounded like warm bread. At the table, Amara told her about the approvals and the submissions, about the freshman with the speech photo and the violinist with calluses. Her mom's eyes grew bright. "People feel safe when someone gives them language," she said. "You and Miss Rivera gave them a simple way to tell the truth." That night, a direct message arrived from an unknown account. It said, "I'm sorry if anything hurt you. I didn't start it. I just didn't stop it." There was no name, just gray letters floating in a small box. Amara stared at the words for a long minute. She did not type back. She took a screenshot, labeled it with the time, and saved it. Then she closed the app and set her phone face down. She stood by the window and watched lights blink in other apartments. Somewhere, someone was saving a picture of their day. Somewhere, someone was making tea. Somewhere, someone was thinking about an apology they did not know how to give yet. The world was full of both kinds of moments. The next morning at school, the principal, Dr. Rivers, sent a message to all homerooms. It was short and even. It reminded everyone about the kindness policy, the digital guidelines, and how to report concerns. It also said that the school would be reviewing reports carefully and speaking with students as needed. No names. No drama. Just a gentle, steady line. In the hall, Amara saw two students reading the message and nodding. One said, "About time." The other said, "Yeah, I've seen stuff too." Small conversations sprouted like seeds that had been waiting for rain. By the end of the day, the Truth Through the Lens folder held more than Amara expected. A picture of a cafeteria tray with the caption, "I sit alone to breathe, not because I think I am better than you." A close-up of a hearing aid with "Please speak facing me." A math notebook with eraser shavings and "Getting it wrong is part of getting it right." Each photo was a small open door. Amara helped Miss Rivera sort the images, making sure every caption met the guidelines. If a caption sounded sharp, they wrote back kindly and suggested a softer version that still told the truth. Students accepted the edits without fuss. It felt like everyone wanted the same thing now, to be heard without hurting someone else. When Amara finally sat on the bus home, she felt tired in the good way, like after cleaning a room that had been messy for a long time. Noor slid into the seat across the aisle. "I submitted a photo," she whispered, almost shy. "It's my grandmother's hands making bread. The caption says, 'Softness can be strong.'" Amara's eyes smiled. "That sounds perfect," she said. Matteo waved from a few seats back and held up his sketchbook. He had drawn a hallway with little lamps along the floor and tiny footprints leading forward. On the bottom he had written, "Follow the light." In her room that night, Amara placed her camera on her desk and opened her notebook. She wrote the family rule at the top of the page, then added a new line below it, "We make space for truth and call it home." She did not know exactly what would happen next. She did not know which students would be called to the office or what the results would be. But she knew this: she had not answered unkindness with more unkindness. She had kept her peace. She had spoken with proof. She had acted with grace. And now, a hallway in her school was beginning to glow with small, steady light. The week began with quiet doors closing and careful doors opening. On Monday morning, the office sent private slips to a few students to come in at different times. No one's name went on a board. No one was called out in a loud voice. It was all calm and steady, like traffic lights changing in order. Amara saw the slips in a few hands, saw a few faces turn thoughtful, and kept walking to class with Noor and Matteo. She did not try to guess who had received them. She kept her eyes on her own steps. In the counseling office, Mrs. Chen had a file with Amara's labeled notes and the screenshots. An assistant from the tech team sat with her, not to point fingers, but to confirm simple facts. They checked time stamps. They looked at when school Wi-Fi was used. They compared that to the times in the screenshots. It was not about hunting a person. It was about checking the shape of the truth. When the office spoke with students, they used the same calm tone they had used with Amara. "We are here to understand what happened and to help make it right." Some students admitted that they had shared a post without thinking. A few said they laughed because everyone else was laughing and they did not want to look different. One student said he took the hallway photo because he thought it was just a joke and did not realize how it would feel to the person in the picture. The office asked them to say more. "Why was it funny to you? Why wasn't it funny to the person in the photo? What could you do next time?" No one raised their voice. No one slammed a book shut. The questions did the work like soft rain does, slow, steady, and real. Liam asked for a meeting early. He said he had not started anything, but he had been there, and he had smiled when he should have spoken up. He looked at his shoes and then at Mrs. Chen and said, "I was wrong." He was not proud, but he was honest. Mrs. Chen wrote down his words and thanked him for showing up with the truth. "It is never too late to be the person you want to be," she said. He nodded and wiped his eyes once with the back of his hand. By Tuesday, small changes were already appearing. In science, the teacher returned the lab grades with a note clipped to Amara's paper: "Your participation was recorded. Credit corrected." The teacher looked at her with a steady face and said, "If there is ever a moment when your name is left off, tell me right away. You deserve credit for your work." The two students who had kept the lab sheet to themselves avoided Amara's eyes, but when class ended, one of them came up and said in a small voice, "Sorry about last time." Amara nodded once. "Thank you," she said. She did not add more. She did not need to. The truth had done what it needed to do. That afternoon, the principal, Dr. Rivers, met with a small group, including the students most connected to the posts and whispers. He spoke with a kind firmness that felt like a handrail. "Our goal is not to punish for the sake of it," he said. "Our goal is to repair harm, teach better choices, and make sure this does not repeat." The plan was simple, fair, and specific. Students would attend a digital citizenship workshop about posting, privacy, and empathy. They would write real apology letters, not copy and paste sentences, to the people they had hurt. Some would complete community service hours to support the counseling center's peer support table, where students could stop by for resources on how to handle conflict and stress. There would also be a follow-up check in a few weeks to make sure the changes were holding. For Tessa, there was an extra step. She held a small leadership role in a club, where she set tone and modeled behavior. Dr. Rivers asked her to step down from that role for the semester. "Leadership starts with care," he said gently. "We'll revisit this later." He did not announce this to the whole school. He did not post it anywhere. He spoke to her in private and offered a path forward. Tessa left the office with careful steps. Pride can be heavy, and learning can be heavy too. The next morning, Mrs. Chen invited Amara to a restorative circle. "This is optional," she said. "It is a space where people who were harmed and people who caused harm can speak to each other with a trained facilitator. No one will blame or shout. We use I statements. We ask for respect with clear words. You can bring support." Amara sat with the idea for a breath. She thought of her grandmother's plant with the new leaf. Growth is quiet work. "Yes," she said. "I would like Noor and Mateo there." Mrs. Chen smiled. "Of course." The circle met after school in a small room that smelled like lemon cleaner and paper. Chairs sat in a ring. On a low table, there was a bowl of smooth stones, a box of tissues, and a card that said, "Speak truth. Listen to understand." The facilitator, Mr. Alvarez, explained the rules in simple words. "We speak one at a time. We use I instead of you. We tell what happened, how it felt, and what would help repair. We do not argue with feelings. We do not deny someone else's story. We do not rush." He held up a small wooden token. "When you hold this, you have the floor." Amara sat between Noor and Mateo. Across from them were Tessa and two other students who had shared posts. Liam sat at the edge, his hands folded, ready to listen. Mrs. Chen and Miss Patel were there too, quiet, present, like anchors. Mr. Alvarez began. "We will go around the circle. Amara, you may start, or you may pass and speak later." Amara took a slow breath and chose to start. She held the wooden token in both hands. "I am new," she said, "and this school is big. I came here wanting to learn and to be myself. On my first days, I heard jokes that were not jokes. I found a note in my locker that told me someone could touch my things. In science, my name was left off a paper I helped with. Online, I saw a picture of me from the back with a caption that said I copy. I felt small in a room where I wanted to feel safe. I felt watched and not seen. I felt like my piece was a glass of water, and I had to hold it with two hands so it would not spill." She looked down at the token, then up again. Her voice stayed even. "I did not want a scene. I wanted the behavior to stop. I collected facts and asked for help. My request is simple: please do not make jokes about me or anyone else. Please do not post pictures without permission. Please include people in group work. Please let school be a place where we all have room to breathe." She passed the token. It went to Noor, who said softly, "When you hurt Amara, you hurt more than one person. You made the room smaller for all of us. I want a school where the room is big." Mateo said, "I used to think silence was neutral. I learned it can be a choice that might help the wrong thing. Next time I will speak." Then it was Tessa's turn. She held the token like it might break. Her face had the look of someone who had slept little. She took a breath and spoke in a low voice. "I liked being the person who made people laugh. It made me feel strong. I told myself it was just jokes. I thought, if no one cries, It's fine. I was wrong. When you said the part about your piece being a glass of water, I felt that. I don't want to be someone who knocks people's cups. Her eyes grew wet. She did not wipe them right away. I am sorry for all of it, the jokes, the locker thing, the post. I am sorry I used my voice to make the room smaller. I will not do that again. One of the other students said, I shared things without thinking. I thought the caption was clever. I didn't think about the person in the picture. I'm sorry. The second student said, I didn't start it, but I kept it going. I'm sorry. Liam did not take the token, but he spoke when it passed him. I didn't stop it. Next time I will. Mr. Alvarez nodded. Thank you, he said. Apologies are a door. We also need to walk through that door. He turned to Amara. What repairs would feel real to you? Amara had thought about this. I want clear boundaries, she said. No more posts about me or anyone else without consent. No more whispers meant to make people feel small. In group work, include everyone's name on shared assignments. And I want us to support the photo showcase. I want the school to keep learning. The group agreed. They named the boundaries out loud so everyone would hear the same words. No more unkind captions. Ask before taking or sharing photos. Include all members on lab sheets and projects. If someone is being targeted, speak up or get help. They also agreed to volunteer time at the peer support table during lunch, where they would help hand out simple guides about posting with care and how to report problems. It would not be a punishment table. It would be a learning table. At the end of the circle, Mr. Alvarez asked each person to share one sentence about what they were taking from the room. Miss Patel said, I am taking hope. Mrs. Chen said, I am taking respect for the courage it takes to tell the truth. Mateo said, I am taking a promise to speak sooner. Noor said, I am taking the picture of a glass of water and a steady hand. Liam said, I am taking a second chance and I will use it. The two students who had shared posts said, I am taking responsibility. Tessa said, I am taking a new way to use my voice. Amara said, I am taking my piece back. They stacked chairs slowly. There was no dramatic music, no big cheer. Just a lighter air in the small room. On the way out, Tessa stopped near Amara but did not block her path. Your photos in the showcase, she said carefully, they made me think. The caption that said, I am more than your rumor. I read it twice. Amara met her eyes. Thank you, she said. Please keep reading. Tessa nodded and stepped aside. The next days were different in small but deep ways. The digital workshop filled a classroom with students who asked real questions. What if I didn't mean harm? What if I already hurt someone? How do I fix it? The instructor showed simple steps: pause before posting, ask before sharing, write as if the person is in the room, repair with action, not only words. At lunch, the peer support table had flyers that said, think before you post and how to report safely. Students came by and took them without being pushed. Liam helped set up the table every day and stayed to answer questions. Tessa showed up, too quiet, not for show. She wrote an apology letter to Amara with careful lines and no excuses. She also wrote a second letter to herself, which she did not show anyone, but she kept it folded in her pocket like a small compass. In the hallway, whispers still existed, but they sounded different. They were about the photos, about kindness, about how people felt seen. A freshman stood longer at the showcase and traced one caption with her finger in the air. A senior told Miss Rivera that he wished they had done this years ago. Teachers said group work felt fairer that week. In science, the lab sheet moved across all hands at the table, and names were written in clear letters, including Amara's. The simple act felt like a door swinging open. Amara did not walk around with a crown. She walked with her camera and her notebook and her steady breath. She smiled at Noor and Mateo. She thanked Miss Patel and Mrs. Chen when she passed their doors. She nodded to Dr. Rivers in the hall. And when she saw Tessa at the peer support table handing a flyer to a younger student with a gentle voice, Amara felt something settle in her chest. This was not loud revenge. This was careful truth and steady kindness working like light through a window. The people who had tried to make her small now felt the weight of their choices. They regretted what they had done. And more important than that, they were learning how not to do it again. One evening, Amara sat by her window and looked at the city lights. She opened her notebook and wrote a new line under the family rule: when people repair, welcome the repair, and keep the boundaries. She thought about the circle, about the wooden token warm in her hands, about Tessa's voice when she said she wanted a new way to use her voice. Amara believed that people could change. She also believed that rules mattered. Both things could be true at the same time. The night was quiet. In that quiet, Amara understood something simple and strong: she had answered harm with proof, grace, and good steps. She had not given up her peace. She had guided the room to a better place. The story was still going, but the direction had changed. And that was enough for now. The day the photo showcase opened, the school hallway felt different from the first days Amara had walked it. Sunlight fell in long lines across the floor, and the air carried a soft, bright feeling, like someone had opened a window in a stuffy room. Amara arrived early with her camera and a roll of painter's tape. She did not want a big spotlight. She just wanted the frames to hang straight and the captions to be easy to read. Miss Rivera stood on a small step stool and adjusted one last frame. "Perfect," she said, stepping down. "Now we let the light do its work." Noor and Mateo joined them, each holding a stack of simple programs with the guidelines printed inside. The three of them moved slowly along the wall, checking that every photo had its caption tucked neatly in place. Amara's small series sat near the middle, 5 photos from her first week at school, each with a short sentence. "I am more than your rumor. I am not your joke. I am here to learn. Don't guess my story, ask me. I carry my own name." The photos were not dramatic. A hallway. A notebook. A window. But together they had a steady kind of power, like a hand on a shoulder that says, "You matter." When the first bell rang, students gathered in clusters. The hallway grew quiet in a new way. People leaned forward to read, then leaned back to think. A freshman with a speech photo stood near her picture and smiled when someone whispered, "That's my feeling too." A soccer player pointed at the "I am not only one thing" caption and nodded slowly. 2 teachers paused side by side, not to evaluate, but to learn. Dr. Rivers came by with a cup of tea and read every word. He did not talk while he read. He just let the words do their work. When he finished, he said softly, "Thank you," to no one and everyone at once. Tessa arrived with a small group but did not speak at first. She moved along the wall with careful steps and stopped at Amara's series. Her mouth made a small shape, as if she were saying a word inside her head that she had not said before. She reached up and straightened a frame that did not need straightening, then dropped her hand. When she turned, Amara was standing a few feet away. Their eyes met for a second. Tessa gave a simple nod, the kind a person gives when they understand the weight of a moment but do not want to take it over. Amara nodded back, not with ice, not with fire, but with a steady face that meant, "Keep your promise." They moved on. By lunchtime, the student newspaper advisor sent 2 reporters with notebooks to collect short comments. They asked what the showcase meant to people. One student said, "It makes me breathe slower." Another said, "It feels like the school looked in a mirror and then opened a window." When they turned to Amara, she kept her answer small. "This is not about me," she said in simple words. "It is about our room being big enough for everyone." The reporter smiled. That's a good line, he said. We'll use it. Amara smiled back. It's not a line, she said. It's a wish. The ripple of change kept moving. That week, Dr. Rivers asked Amara, Noor, and Mateo to join a short meeting about making Welcome Week better for new students. In the conference room, the table had a bowl of green apples and a stack of blank paper. Let's design something that works, he said. They drew a simple plan: buddy pairs for the first month, a student-guided map walk on day 1, a gentle talk in homerooms about questions to ask before making assumptions, and a clear, friendly card that explained how to report a problem in 3 steps. Simple steps help when your heart is busy, Noor said. Everyone agreed. The Digital Conduct workshop turned into a regular part of the school week. Liam offered to co-lead the student section. I know what it looks like to go along, he said. I want to teach myself how to stop sooner. He made a little checklist and taped it to the whiteboard: pause, ask, imagine, choose. Pause before you post. Ask if you have permission. Imagine the person next to you. Choose respect. Tessa came to help set up chairs, then stayed to answer questions without showing off. When someone asked, "What if people think I'm boring because I don't share funny stuff?" she said, "Boring is better than hurting someone. But also, you can be kind and interesting at the same time." In classrooms, the air shifted in simple ways that mattered. In science, lab groups started by writing down every member's name before they touched the materials. In English, Miss Patel gave a weekly prompt called Small Courage, where students wrote about a moment they tried to do the right thing without applause. In the art room, Miss Rivera showed a slide with 2 words, mirror and window. She asked, "What are you making today?" A mirror to see yourself more clearly, or a window to help others see into another life. Students raised hands and spoke in calm voices. Amara did not become the face of anything. She went to class, took notes, and kept making pictures of ordinary light. She wrote her homework in neat lines and asked questions when she needed help. She kept her promises to herself: no shrinking, no shouting, steady truth. One afternoon, Miss Rivera told her about a local youth arts show at the community center. Submit 2 pieces, she said. Your eye is quiet and strong. Amara chose her hallway photo with the janitor's cart and her series captioned, First Week, New Name. She wrote a short artist's statement in simple English. I take pictures of small truth. I think small truth can move a room. When the show results came back, Amara did not win first place, but she received an honorable mention and a note from a judge that said, your captions are soft but firm. They teach without scolding. Her mom bought a tiny cake and cut it into neat squares on a blue plate. They ate at the kitchen table and laughed about how the cake icing stuck to the knife. I like how you do things, her mom said. You don't push people. You invite them. Amara thought of her grandmother's plant with the new leaf. Growth is quiet work. People notice later. She felt full, but not heavy. The real test came a few weeks later, on a rainy Tuesday. A younger student dropped a stack of notebooks in the hall. 2 boys started to giggle, not cruelly at first, just out of habit. Before Amara could even bend to help, another student stepped in and said, hold on. Let's help. A small team formed, like a hand closing gently around something fragile. The boys who had giggled stopped, crouched, and picked up pencils. No one gave a speech. No one clapped. The notebooks went back into the arms that needed them, and people kept walking, but the hallway felt bigger again. Amara lifted her camera and took a quiet picture of 2 hands meeting over a notebook. Later she wrote a caption, we don't let things scatter. The restorative circle had a follow-up meeting. It was shorter this time. Everyone checked in with 1 sentence. The students who had shared posts reported that they had kept the boundaries. Liam said he had spoken up twice when friends started to make a joke online. Tessa said she had asked a teacher if it was okay to use a photo in a club flyer, and when the teacher said yes, she still asked the people in the photo again, just to be sure. Amara listened and felt relief that did not sparkle, but lasted. She said, "Thank you for keeping your promises. Please keep them tomorrow too." Mr. Alvarez nodded. "This is what repair looks like," he said. "Not fancy. Just steady." The student newspaper printed a special spread with photos from the showcase and short reflections. At the bottom of the page, there was a kind words challenge where students could write a single sentence to someone who had helped them feel seen. The boxes filled up. "Thank you for waiting when I speak slowly. Thank you for saving me a seat. Thank you for saying my name right." Someone wrote, "Thank you, Amara, for bringing a small lamp to the hallway." The note had no signature. Amara did not try to guess. She just cut out the page and tucked it inside her notebook. As the term moved along, the school collected all the showcase photos and made a simple booklet. The library kept a copy on a low shelf with a label, "Truth Through the Lens Riverview Voices." Students could check it out, flip through it on a hard day, or show it to a new friend. Miss Rivera gave Amara an extra copy to take home. At the kitchen table, Amara handed it to her mom. Her mom touched the cover like it was something fragile and strong at the same time. "This is what repair looks like," she said, smiling. "Paper and light and people trying." On a calm Friday afternoon, Amara walked past the wall where the frames had first hung. The photos were down now, but the wall did not look empty. It looked ready. She thought about the word revenge from the title that had once lived only in her head. In her life, it did not look like loud scenes or cutting words. It looked like careful truth, steady kindness, firm boundaries, and a room that kept getting bigger. The people who hurt her had felt the weight of their choices. They had said sorry with action. They had learned. That was enough. That was better than a win. It was a future. That evening, Amara sat by the window, as she often did, and wrote the family rule one more time: "We speak with proof, we act with grace, and we protect our peace." Under it, she added two new lines that had grown during the season: "We invite light into the room. We make space for truth and call it home." She looked out at the street and took one last photo of the day, the corner of the building across from her, painted with late sunshine, and a small bird on the wire like a note on a line. She did not need to post it. She did not need to say much about it. She saved it and felt complete. On Monday, life continued. New homework, new jokes that were actually kind, new students who arrived and found a buddy with a map and a smile. In science, the lab sheet moved around the table like a shared story, and every name was written before the first step began. In English, a boy read his small courage piece aloud and received quiet, real applause. In art, someone wrote under the words mirror and window, lamp. Miss Rivera left it there. It fit. Amara walked down the hall with her camera on her wrist and her piece steady in her chest. She was not smaller. She was not harder. She was herself. And the room, at last, felt big enough.